I've had so many experiences in my life where I'm like, damn, I have suffered. And it can be easy to become identified with that, to build a story and a narrative. I think I had a narrative for a long time that it's like, yeah, my life is just full of suffering. And then I think the moment where I was like, you know what? I choose not to see it that way anymore. I choose not to suffer. Doesn't mean that things aren't hard at times, but I just am not fighting against it when it does happen. I'm not resisting it. I'm not trying to fix it or change it. I'm allowing it. I'm being in it and with it. I'm finding the peace in the middle of the storm. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. Hello, beautiful people. How are you doing? I hope you're well. So there's a few things that I want to talk about today. And one was something that came up in a session that I had where I was receiving, which was so lovely. And she said to me at one point, she said, you know, there'll always be struggle, but suffering is optional. And I thought, God, that is such a good saying. That is so true. We can experience challenge and pain, and I mean, we're quite actually amazing at how resilient we are, that we can endure a lot. And sometimes it feels like it's unbearable and it's too much. And there is a lot of suffering. There's a lot of suffering on this planet. But we have this amazing gift and ability, should we choose to tap into it, where we can make a choice to change our experience within a given reality simply by the way that we perceive it and simply by the way that we respond to it. And just as a reminder for those of you that maybe haven't heard, my work before, that I often will say, there's a big difference between how we respond and how we react to something. That being in a level of consciousness and self-awareness, we can choose to respond to our whatever situation we're in. Whereas when we're coming from an unconscious place, we're in reaction mode. And I think when we're in reaction mode, we suffer. We suffer because we feel like we're at the mercy to life, and that life is happening to us rather than for us. And it's all of these ways in which we can perceive our experience. And ultimately, our experience, I want to be mindful of how I say this, but ultimately our experience is neutral. We might not like it. We might not prefer it. It might be really uncomfortable. It might be really painful. There might feel like there is absolutely a legitimate reason for suffering. And yet we can still choose to respond to it in whatever way we choose to respond to it or react to it, right? And I think the suffering piece really comes in at that point. I don't want to devalue when somebody really is in pain and in sadness and in grief, and that there is suffering in that. But I've heard plenty of stories of people that are living in a war zone, and they're still filled with joy and love and appreciation and gratitude for their family and for what they do have. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have people that are living in a mansion that are suffering because there's something inside of them that is in pain, right? So it's so I like I said, I don't want to undervalue that we do suffer. And yet, what if we were to say that suffering is a choice? Some of you are going to be like, I don't like that, Corinne. I'm not choosing to suffer like this. Like, my life is hard. I can't pay the bills. I'm in a cold apartment, or, my family member died, or I've just gone through a divorce, or I lost a child, or I'm not discounting that all of the above and more is very real, and it's very painful and scary and challenging and difficult, all of those things. I'm a superhuman person, and meaning I'm not superhuman. I'm meaning, like, I'm very human and I feel things. So I'm not brushing over that. I'm not bypassing over that. There's an and to this, not a but an and that says, and even in the hardest freaking moments of our life, we do actually have the power of choice as to the degree of suffering. as to the way that we show up within our pain, within our grief, within our fear, within our anxiety. And ultimately, it's hugely empowering to know that we have the power to show up in whatever way we want to show up. Does it take conscious awareness? Yes. Does it take effort? Sure. It might very well. And as I've said many times on here, that we've been in a victimhood mentality and paradigm for a long, long time. We've also been in the belief system of you're not good enough. And so with all of these things, we're not really supported to believe in ourselves, to be compassionate and kind and gentle with ourselves. If anything, we're the opposite, where we're kind of more groomed for judgment and criticism and berating ourselves because we fundamentally think that we're not good enough or lovable enough or significant enough, because our whole society is based on like, prove it. And even still, you're not good enough, you know? So it might feel like a radical thing to say, to be like, oh, you can choose whether you suffer or not. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that if I choose to not suffer, it doesn't mean that it still doesn't hurt. It's just one way I've explained it before is that you can have pain, and then you put a judgment over your pain. So you have whatever experience you have, but then you have the judgment, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I should be like that. This isn't right. This is wrong. I'm bad. Something's wrong with me. I need to be fixed. I need to, whatever. That's all the judgment. That is unnecessary suffering. It's just not even needed, right? It's unnecessary suffering. There's already a suffering in whatever pain or challenge or grief you're going through. But the added judgment on top, the added critique of your experience on top, is such an unnecessary suffering. And so I think we're learning to take self-responsibility and make choices as to, how do I want to show up in this situation? How do I want to respond to this situation? And it's not easy in the beginning. I'll give you an example of when I lived in a place that was like such a beautiful paradise, was totally my habitat. And yet, like, juxtaposed to that, or like such a paradoxical experience, it was also like a living hell, because I was dealing with 9 months of endless construction all around me. And then, not being able to find parking because it was kind of in a city. And then traffic like I hadn't experienced in years, and drivers that were just crazy. And I spent a lot of time in reactivity towards it because my nervous system was so strained, but I also was reacting to it. That really, in a way, made me suffer, because I was resisting it. And I'm sure those of you that have been following me have heard me say, am I in a state of tension or am I in a state of relaxation? If I'm in a state of tension, I'm resisting against my current experience and reality. If I'm in a state of relaxation, I can allow it. It doesn't mean that I like it, right? I might prefer something else, but that in the allowing, then there's enough space to be able to make a conscious choice as to, how do I want to respond to this situation? We're not in control of anything outside of us. We're really not. We're really only in control, quote unquote, of how we choose to respond to it. So I was living in this place where just, morning till night, this construction sat, and the traffic, and I was exhausted with being frustrated and angry, and just like, I couldn't take it anymore. And I remember one day I was driving to go pick up my daughter from school, and I was stuck in traffic. And I just was like, you know what? I choose to not suffer. I choose to not suffer anymore. I choose to not resist this anymore. I choose to not be angry about it anymore, because you know what? I'm in it. I'm in it. And right now in this moment, I can't change it, because for that, I was trying to find a place to move to, and I couldn't. And, eventually I did. And that, like, of course, sometimes you just need to change your environment, but sometimes it's a process. There's a transition to that. And so there has to be an allowing of wherever you are. And then, yes, you can make a choice to take different paths, right? Different routes, change things, change it, but sometimes that takes time. And so in the meantime, okay, what do you do? What do you do? And I just recognized how I was like, okay, I'm creating unnecessary suffering for myself. Like, the struggle is real, folks. It was real, but the suffering was a choice. And I'm going to say it again, that might feel triggering for some people, because some people might say, I'm not choosing to suffer. I didn't choose for this, my family member to die, or my partner to die, or my friend to get sick, or for me to lose my job, or for me to not be able to pay the bills, or for whatever your plight is. You could say, well, I didn't choose that, so I'm not choosing to suffer. And so again, I'm not discounting, I'm not devaluing the reality of the challenge and of the struggle. That is real, right? Pain is real. Grief is real. Fear is, well, the experience is real, but often the fear is in the mind, right? That's a tricky one to use as an analogy, but all of that is real. Our human experience is quote unquote real. How we respond to it is our choice. And that's where we have empowerment through choice. And I want to say that, if we're in a state where we can't choose the acceptance or the allowing or the being present with it, or the ability to alchemize our experience because we just haven't practiced it enough, there's zero judgment. There's zero judgment, because actually the first point of stepping into this state where we can choose suffering or not is by not judging our experience. And an example that I'll give you is, I was talking about with my mom about this, that I was like, we were talking about the observer and the witness and how important that is to cultivate that in our life. You could say that it's your consciousnness, you could say it's your soul, your higher self, your oversoul, whatever you want to call it. But when you're doing self-awareness, how does it's not even work or practice, it just is like, that's there. Whether we're aware of it or not is another thing. But when you're making it aware, when you're making it conscious, you'll recognize that the observer is always there observing your experience. So you have the personality, and you have the canvas. Remember, I've used this analogy, the canvas behind the painting, that is the essence of who you are, that is witnessing and watching your human experience, but without any judgment. If you're experiencing judgment, that is not the observer, that's the critic. And that's that's an archetype, right? It's not your essence. But this part that can just kind of come in and be able to witness. And when you have a relationship to both, you're aware, I'm aware of the witness, the observer, and I'm aware of my human self and my personality. And so the example that I want to give is, when my daughter was younger, there were times where, it's like I didn't sleep, I was on my own, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're trying to entertain your child, and I'd be stretched in some moments, and maybe she did something that annoyed me or whatever. I just was, triggered by something. And I would catch myself being like, I'm about to lose it. And maybe I would have a reaction. And I would have that observer go, Corinne, you have a choice. You don't have to react in that way. You have a choice. And there were some times where I was like, I don't care. I want to be angry right now. Like, I don't care. I'm going down that stream that's like, I'm having a reaction and I can't pull it back right now. So be it. But I was aware of it, right? I was aware of it, but I chose my humanity in that moment, my very human reaction. The good thing is, because of that awareness, I could take self-responsibility for it. And so if I ever had a reaction or a triggered response, I would say to my daughter, and I still do to this day, this is what's going on for me. Yes, maybe I'm finding it hard when you do this, but to let her know it's not about her worth. It's not about her. I'm under-resourced right now. I don't have the capacity to show up better right now. So I'm taking full responsibility for being a dick in that moment, right? So that's already a really big step when we can at least be aware of it and take self-responsibility. The next step obviously is when we can go, okay, you know what? Let me rein it in a little bit. I can express how I'm feeling. I don't need to mask it or push it down or pretend like, oh, I'm fine, everything's great. No, I can maybe articulate it in a moment that's non-reactive. And I can say, I'm angry right now, or I'm frustrated right now, or I'm really struggling right now. And this just speaking the truth of your human experience in that moment. And again, I'm tying this into the suffering is optional, because when we're in that state of reactivity, it's really hard for it to feel optional. And I think the allowing and the accepting without judgment of our human experience, it's not to say if you're experiencing grief right now, there's suffering in that. But when we I know it's so hard sometimes, but there's something exquisite, not just beautiful, there's something exquisite that happens when we fully allow ourselves to relax and soften into the emotional pain. We don't suffer in that moment. It's actually really extraordinary. You know, the suffering tends to be in the story. It tends to be in the resistance of, it tends to be in the I'm focused on the grief. I'm just using grief as an example. I'm focused on the grief, but I'm actually not feeling it. And I've worked with a lot of people that think, oh, I'm being with the emotion because I'm fully focused on it. And I can say being focused on it and actually feeling and being in it and with it with compassion are two totally different things. So someone can be like, oh, I'm aware that I'm sad, or I'm aware that I'm depressed, or I'm aware that I'm whatever the emotion is, because I'm focused on it. I see that I'm that, but they're actually in resistance to it. And there's a part of them that's like, I see it, I see it, I see it. So therefore I'm feeling it. And it's like, no, they're not feeling it. Because when we're in it and we're feeling it, there's a, because all parts of us want to be seen, heard, and understood. They don't want to feel alone. They don't want to feel judged. They don't want to feel abandoned or rejected, right? They don't want to feel like they're not good enough. They want to feel like they're included and they deserve to be loved and embraced. And all parts of us deserve our kindness. They want our kindness, right? So when we don't have a judgment over our human experience, we suffer a lot less. And it really is, the best word I can describe it as is softening. Just soften into the experience. No matter what you're thinking, feeling, or experiencing, soften into it. What if you removed all judgment? If it's good or bad, or right or wrong, or should or shouldn't, all of that's a judgment. And I want to speak a little bit now to self-worth and self-confidence. These things aren't something that come from the outside. Many of you know this, right? It's not new information. It's also not something that all of a sudden just like drops in like that. Or that, sure, some people might have, a greater sense of self-confidence or self-esteem than another person for whatever reason. Their life experiences, their human design, there's loads of things that, we've designed ourselves in a way for us to learn the lessons that we want to learn in this lifetime. So some people might be dealing more with a low self-esteem because that's part of their growth path, right? But all humans have experienced it in some shape or form at one point or another. But confidence and self-worth and self-knowing isn't just something that just drops in like that. It's practice. Like self-confidence means, or courage means, I'm fucking scared right now, or I don't feel very confident in myself, and I'm still going to show up and do it. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to, strength doesn't just come like this. You might be scared shitless and then you go, no, but I'm still going to do it. And you know what helps us to do it? You know what makes it possible for us to do it is you don't need to feel 100% confident. You don't need to feel 100% strong. You don't need to feel 100% worthy. What you need is to know that you and you're here for and with yourself. You're holding your own hand. You've got your back. You're not going to judge yourself. That's what allows us to become more confident, to become more the feeling of worthiness, in the state of worthiness, in the state of being of I'm good enough, because we stop judging ourselves. We stop creating this unnecessary suffering that is wrapped into a story that we're not good enough or worthy enough or significant enough, or we need to do something to prove, and to validate who we are, and to receive all of that from the outside in. It's just showing up with and for ourselves. That's all it is. It's so damn simple, but it's not always easy because we haven't been taught. And all of it just takes practice. Keep on doing it. Keep on showing up. Keep on showing up. Keep on showing up. And when you do judge yourself and you catch yourself, oh, wow, I'm judging myself right now. Okay, don't berate yourself. Don't be like, oh, God, I'm back to square one. God, I can't do it. I'm such an idiot. That's another judgment. Just go, wow, I'm judging myself right now. How does that feel? God, that hurts. In what ways am I making myself suffer more than I need to be suffering right now? And I think with life, I mean, I hold my hand up. Like I've had so many experiences in my life where I'm like, damn, I have suffered. And it can be easy to become identified with that, to build a story and a narrative. I think I had a narrative for a long time that it's like, yeah, my life is just full of suffering. The way that I am is just, I'm going to suffer. And then I think the moment where I was like, you know what? I choose not to see it that way anymore. I choose not to suffer. Doesn't mean that things aren't hard at times, but I just am not fighting against it when it does happen. I'm not resisting it. I'm not trying to fix it or change it. I'm allowing it. I'm being in it and with it. I'm finding the peace in the middle of the storm. That's how we let go of suffering. And so it's just, it was a reminder when she said it to me of, struggle. There's always going to be a struggle or a challenge, but suffering is optional. And it just made me laugh. And actually, I think the moment that we laugh with something, it's like, yeah, it's so true. Right? So practice it even with the smallest of things. I don't know why this example came up, but like, when you stub your toe, which like nobody likes, like you feel it, but just recognize what part of you might be over embellishing it, or what part of you might be repressing it and trying to underdo it, like, can you be just in the isness of your experience without the judgment, but without creating a story one way or another that's going to make you suffer more. And on a much deeper level, maybe one day I'll talk more about how this works in the context of relationship, because we can suffer so much in relationship because it's so deeply vulnerable. And we have so many storylines that go with that, and so many kind of woundings and traumas and triggers and fears and beliefs and limiting beliefs and worthiness and lovability and significance. Like it pokes and prods all of our sore, tender spots. And we can really get ourselves into a story and into an identity that can spin us into just huge suffering. But for today, just the invitation is just to be aware. And I know it sounds weird. You might, when I say, where are you choosing suffering? You might be like, what the hell, Corinne? I'm not choosing suffering. But in a way, again, I'm going to look at the layers of it. There's the suffering of whatever painful experience you're going through. That's real. But what I'm talking about is the suffering of the way that you're reacting and responding to that thing that's happening. And that's normally the story. That's normally the beliefs. It's normally the way our self-talk. It's the meaning we give it, right? So, one can be in a difficult situation and go, fuck, this is hard. This hurts. And you can still find, like, what is the beauty in it? What am I grateful for in my life? Not as a spiritual bypass, but to look at it from the whole vaster perspective. In what ways is stretching me beyond my comfort zone? What am I learning? Not as a punishment, but as a point of growth, right? Grist for the mill. What do I want to take from this? What do I want to make of this? That is in my control as a creator being. I can be at the mercy to it, or I can engage with it and I can make it into, when you get given lemons, make lemonade. That's saying. But again, it's not about be like falsely positive and optimistic or just spiritually bypass the shit out of your entire human experience. No, you have to walk through it. But you can be on a hike, and you could get blisters on your heels, and you can spend the entire rest of that hike moaning and complaining and bitching, and you're going to suffer. You're going to be miserable. Or you can breathe into it and go, damn, this hurts. Okay. Breathe, keep on going. Be aware of it, be present. I learned this as a professional ballet dancer. There were times where your feet would almost be bleeding. I remember having moments where I felt like my feet and point shoes were like I was might as well be barefoot in glass, like that much pain. And I have one specific memory where we were rehearsing this. It was like the end of the day and I was in so much pain. And then I just like, I breathed into it. I stopped fighting the pain. I stopped resisting it. And oddly, this is going to sound like super masochistic. It went from pain to pleasure. And I don't know if I said this or if this got deleted because I'm having internet issues, but there is this point of absolute, it's not just beauty, but exquisiteness. When we can soften into whatever our experience is. There's exquisiteness when we allow ourselves fully to fall into bliss, right? Sometimes we resist bliss because it feels vulnerable. Oh, I'm so happy right now. No, I don't want something to go wrong. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to be taken away from me. So I'm not going to quite feel the excitement and the joy and the happiness and the bliss because maybe something bad will happen or it'll be taken away from me. So we resist that, right? We don't let ourselves soften into it. Same thing with pain. Oh my God, no, that's too painful. It's too scary. I don't want to feel it. We're constantly like this with our humanity, pushing it away, resisting against. When we allow ourselves to just like breathe into it, feel it, be in the waters of it. Don't be drowned in it. You don't have to be in the rapids of it, but like be in it and flow with it. And there's something that will shift and alchemize. That's what's so effing brilliant about us as human beings. We're extraordinary alchemists, that we can take the most brutal thing and make it beautiful, the greatest suffering and turn it into joy. Again, not by spiritual bypassing, that's a very important key point, but by being in it with love. Love is the ultimate alchemist, right? So the invitation today is just to recognize, there's no analysis, there's no criticism, there's just the awareness of where am I choosing suffering and where am I in resistance to recognizing that I'm choosing suffering, the unnecessary suffering. And how can I do it differently? What's a different choice? How can I perceive it differently? How can I look at it through a different lens? What would happen if I looked at my experience without judgment, without good, bad, right, wrong? Without a certain belief that is making it something that it's not. And the confidence will come in. The self-worth will come in. The more that you believe in yourself, the more that you keep doing it, even when you're scared. Courage comes from cœur, which is heart. Take your heart with you in all that you do. And let that be the part that's like, I'm never going to abandon you. I'm never going to reject you. I'm never going to judge you. I'm here through thick and thin. I'm here and I love you and I accept you for who you are as you are right now. Nothing you need to do or prove. See how that just like softens the suffering, even that in and of itself. Oh, I don't need to suffer. Yes, this is hard, but I'm with myself. I love myself. I'm not alone. See how that melts away the suffering. So much is a choice. And we just have to get through that hump of wanting to blame someone or something or even God for our suffering. Feel it. It's real, but don't make it worse than it needs to be. We get to be in joy in life. Life wants us to follow our bliss. Doesn't need for us to be fucking martyrs. We don't need to be the victim. We've just been taught to be the victim to keep us disempowered. You are a fucking creator. You're a manifester. You're an alchemist. You're incredible. And when you tap into the essence of who you are, which is love, anything and everything is possible. And you deserve bliss. You deserve joy. You deserve beauty. You deserve to create that, to collaborate into it, and to receive it. So just some reminders. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye. Thanks for being here. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.